Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee and welcome to another episode of Ask Skill Builder. It's going really well. We're getting loads of questions coming in, so thanks very much and keep them coming. Okay, so we got one here from Donna. Now, Donna wants to change this grotty old bathroom, she calls it, and I've got to agree with her. It's not great, is it? It's obviously started with a bit of Pampers there. She's got Pampers bath, Pampers system, white basin. Yeah, it's definitely in need of an upgrade, isn't it? And it could look really good. And she's going to use Elements board. She's been watching our videos and she's decided to use Abacus Elements board, so that's great. And she's saying that they're looking at using this Pushfit Plumbing because it's very easy to use, but they're a bit worried about the fact that they've got EPDM O-rings in there, which is a form of rubber. You've got a rubber O-ring in there, and she's saying that what is the life of those? How long is it going to be before she's got to start replacing plumbing fittings? And of course, if it's all tiled in, that is a bit of an issue. Well, a lot of people talk about this. The manufacturers will say, look, these are guaranteed for 25 years. And people are saying, well, hang on, they haven't been around for 25 years. How do you know that? In actual fact, they have. In actual fact, if you look at somebody like John Guest, the JG Speedfit, they started using that in the automotive and the brewing industry long before it came into plumbing. So the company's been around for quite a long time, and it's been 30 odd years of using them in plumbing. You know, they're holding up. Okay, nothing is forever. And at some point, maybe those O-rings will start breaking down. I kind of agree in a way that you know, using traditional plumbing, using traditional copper and brass is better than using rubber fittings. But there's also some occasions when the Pushfit works really well. So if you're a bit worried, go for the old traditional brass and copper and you won't go wrong. But I don't want to panic people who have got those fittings, because I've got a fair few of them. I've done a fair few jobs with them, and hopefully, well, I say hopefully, isn't that a terrible thing to say? I was saying 25 years, I won't be called back to fix them anyway, but there you go. So it's good to see you doing the job, good to see you using the Elements board. Now Matt, he said that they've had their room replastered. They had it done in the hot weather last summer, and they've noticed cracks appearing in it all over the place. I think what is happening here is, he said there was old lining paper that had to be removed and then they plastered. So there's two things. One is that it was hot, so the plaster dries out quickly when it's hot. And the other thing is, there was lining paper on there, and I'm just wondering if the plasterers scrubbed the walls down and removed all traces of the old adhesive when the lining paper, or indeed did he. Now, I have loads and loads of arguments with plasterers. They don't like me at all. If you look at the plastering videos on our Skill Builder channel, you'll see that they really hate me. And that's good, because people need someone to hate, you know, and I'm willing to supply that service. But
it's not just the plasterers that hate you, though, is it?
There's hate coming in from all sides. I'll just say to anybody, if you are thinking of starting a YouTube channel, be prepared for a lot of hate. You'll just get it. You just get people who wake up in the morning, go onto YouTube and just like to wound a few people before they go off to work. So that's fine. Back to your question. The question is, was the wall prepared sufficiently beforehand? And I would have said that what you need there is, it needed to be scrubbed off. It doesn't look like shelling, it just looks like shrinkage cracks away from it, and it's actually not that bad, although it looks bad. What I would do is I would go round and I would tap the plaster with your knuckles and just listen, and you can hear where it's parted company from the wall, and you would just hear that sort of hollow, it's almost like eggshell sound, if you like. In those places, it's got to come off. You know, there's nothing else you can do except just tap it off. Then you're into a situation of, do you try and patch it up with more plaster, or do you use something like an easy fill, which you can sand down afterwards? I would have thought easy fill was a good option. Really depends how much of that is loose on the wall and how much of it is firmly stuck. It would have helped if they'd used something like a primer that you can actually get some grit, sort of green grit they call it, which British Gypsum do and other people ever build do it, and you paint that on the wall and you leave that to dry overnight, and then you plaster onto it, and it gives the plaster a really good key. Or the other alternative is to use PVA, and you have dilute PVA, and then you just plaster onto the PVA. Now the only problem with using PVA is it's a question of whether you plaster onto it when it's tacking, or whether you let it go dry and then you use the water in the plaster to reactivate the PVA as it goes on, which does work. But in the very hot weather, you can imagine putting dilute PVA on the wall and it evaporating before the plaster has got anywhere near the job. So the plasterer's primer adhesive is a lot better. But yeah, that doesn't help you now, because the job's been done and the guys have gone and they're not coming back. And you said you've had a builder in to look at it, and the builder said, oh, it's nothing to worry about. No, it doesn't look like your building's falling down, but it does look like there's a bit of work to be done there. And it is a shame that you get guys in to do the job and you haven't got a good job at the end of it. Oh yeah, we got another question from Matt. He wants 2 bites at a cherry. Nothing wrong with that. Keep the questions coming in. Some people put them all into one, but he's given us another one here. It's about a cracked shower tray. Now, we've got one of these on the Skill Builder video, so you can have a look at that. It does happen. It happens even if you install them correctly. So the manufacturer's saying he hasn't installed it properly, and that's the reason. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Quite honestly, they run a mile from this sort of thing, which is why, in a way, I don't like resin cast shower trays anymore. I just run a mile from them. So anyway, that's what you've got. And what I would say is they're not going to play ball with you, but why don't you try your insurance company? Because if that crack is caused by an event, and that means something falling on it rather than it just being sort of wear or tear or whatever, if it was actually caused by some kind of event, people put beach stones in their bathroom, don't they? All sorts of things sometimes, but you've got a chance that they will pay out. So it's worth asking, because you'd kick yourself if you went to all that trouble of getting it replaced and then found that it was covered by your insurance. So give the insurance company a try. Be fairly firm with them and see what they say. They sometimes their initial reaction is, oh no, you're not covered, but just argue the point with them a little bit and see where you get to. But it's got to come out. And what I would say is, don't put another one in of the same make, because they're obviously not nice people. They're not helping you. And why should you give them any more money? What I would be tempted to do is go for something like a Myra Flight or something, a more expensive shower tray, but they are as solid as a rock. So the next question we got is from Ian Little, and this is about his mum's house. And she's got a programmer, central heating programmer, or had one. It's been changed now, but she had one and it was being erratic. It was coming on when it wanted to, and it was just playing its own tunes. Basically, she could never tell when the heating was on or off, because this thing would just erratically turn it on or off. And she had Corgi guys out. Now, Corgi used to be the body that looked after the gas safe register as it is now. And they lost that franchise, but they've carried on in business as a commercial organisation. But I don't want anybody thinking that Corgi is some kind of official body now, because it's not. It's just basically what they do is boiler maintenance and the same sort of thing as British Gas do and all the rest of them. So she's got those guys. They're coming out, they're having a look at it. They kind of looked at a few things, and then somewhere down the line they've kind of lost interest, because I think they think she's imagining it. And what he's been told by the manufacturers, I think Honeywell initially, is that this could be due to some kind of transients or spikes on the electricity supply that's causing this problem. In other words, there's some kind of interference. These are electronic, and there's some kind of interference there, and it could be playing up with the programmer. So what they did, Corgi, is they replaced it with another one. Same thing happened. We've either got a situation where it's a very similar thing, the spikes are causing the problem, or the problem is being caused by something else. So I actually got in touch with Ian. We had a few emails going backwards and forth. I said to him, is there any possibility it could be that motorised valve that's sticking? Because if a motorised valve, if a relay sticks on or off, then you can get that kind of erratic performance. Even when the program's off, you can suddenly find your boiler is firing up. He said, no, they've kind of eliminated that motorised valve. It looks all right. There's nothing going through there. So the valve is closed, but the boiler's still coming on. So then we have to ask, is it something in the boiler? There is an overrun switch in the boiler, which will take the heat away from the boiler. Once the boiler switches off, that overrun switch carries on and just clears the heat from the boiler. Now that's just a pump overrun, so it shouldn't really fire up the burner on the boiler. but something is making that happen. And I think if I were looking at this job, I'd be taking it right back to basics. And what I would do is I would go and get myself a manual, what they used to call the old mini minder, which has got a clock rather than a digital program in it. And I would have a look at that and see if we could do away with the solid state electrics and go back to something which was electromechanical. Because if there is some kind of interference and you take out the electronics, then you've got a better chance of solving it. If an engineer's doing that, what they would normally do is bypass the programmer, just put in a couple of hot links, if you like, just to take the programmer out of the equation. But because this is only happening erratically, then we don't know what's going on. And the other possibility is that the whole system could be wired up wrongly, that we could be getting a live feed from the thermostat that isn't going via the programmer. In other words, the programmer should send a signal to the thermostat, and then the thermostat should send one back to the boiler control. So if somehow the room thermostat is sending that signal back and it's not coming through the programmer, that could also be a problem. I just say that I've been pretty good at solving problems on central heating systems over the years, because I kind of like doing the control systems on central heating systems. But I know a lot of electricians don't, and also a lot of plumbers don't. So it's one of those things that falls in between two camps. And very often what you get is a good installer here, put the whole system in and leave the wires hanging, and then the electrician will come in and do the wire up. Now, if they're good at doing central heating systems, that's absolutely fine, but it's not for everybody. So sometimes I've been round and I've found that the systems are wired up completely wrongly by some well-meaning person. And what I normally do is I just start from scratch, just take it all out, because it's much quicker to just strip all the wires out of the wiring centre and just begin again, put them all in. It probably takes half an hour to do that, whereas the other way, trying to fault find and play around, takes forever. So there you go, Ian. I'm sorry I can't be more help on that one. It does seem like a bit of a mystery, and as I say, Corgi have seemed to have lost interest in it, you're saying. So who knows, maybe time to try somebody else. So the next question we got is from Pete. Now, Pete, I'm not sure about this. I'm looking at this and I'm wondering whether this is genuine or not. I mean, the photograph's genuine, the job is genuine, but now when you look at this photograph, are you ready for this? I don't take the mickey out of these photographs. I mean, I think this is tragic. So just feast your eyes on this photograph, guys and girls, for a while, and let's see what you think. My goodness. I mean, where do you start with a job like that? What we've got here is a loft conversion. There are two RSJs, as they used to call them, steel beams poking out from the side of the loft conversion, which are holding the floor upstairs. Now, I've seen this on a number of occasions where people they've had to put in supporting steels, and they've got to sit on the wall, which is the inner skin of the wall. And in order to do that, because of the rake of the roof, you can't cut the steel beam back at an angle. You've got to have it square, sitting on top of that wall. So what that means is that the piece of steel is protruding through the roof. Now, when I've seen this done properly, that piece of steel has then been boxed in, and they've got a nice bit of lead work over it. And in the main, it doesn't look great, but at least it looks acceptable, you know. This one, they've covered with flash band or something similar, which is a DIY emergency repair thing that will not last. But obviously they couldn't get anyone to do the lead, or they couldn't afford to have the lead done. So they've used all this flash band or whatever it is, and they've taped over it, and it just looks a complete mess. It may not even be leaking, but my goodness, if a surveyor came around and looked at that house, if they were trying to sell it, they would just condemn that job straight away. And then we come on to that funny bit by the side there, with side of a chimney, which is, we don't know what that is. Is that some kind of a roof window that somebody's made up? They just got a window frame and then flashed it round with flash band again. Rather than go and spending a couple of £100 on a good roof window, they've gone for that DIY option. And then we come to the tiles. The tiles are Redland 49s, they look like, which is one of the cheaper tiles you can buy. And these were very popular. They invented in 1949, and they were used because we had a shortage of clay tiles and so on after the war. It's a very quick and cheap way of covering roofs, but you can see there's a complete mismatch between those roof tiles and the slate, and it's ridiculous because if they hadn't wanted to put the original slate back, and you have to ask why they didn't, but if they didn't want to put slate back, they could have used a large format tile that at least looked more like slate. You can get Cambrian slate now, and you can also get Stonewall tiles which are at least smooth faced and dark, so they could have made a whole lot better job of blending that roof in, but as it is, it sticks out like a sore thumb and just looks terrible. Then we come on to the soil pipe. The soil pipe, they've obviously got a loo up there, hopefully a bathroom, and they've just stuck that soil pipe out through the roof and then tried to get round the gutter. And you know, look at how many bends they've used to do that. I've seen this before. You do see this around. You think, my goodness, it was so easy to solve that. If that soil pipe had just come up through the soffit, up through the roof with a proper weathering slate on it, they could have brought the other pipe into it in a conventional branch, just like you would if it was a wall. If you just imagine that was a wall going all the way up instead of a roof, then that's how they would have done it, and it's perfectly possible to do it. It would have been easier, it would have been cheaper, but obviously the person who did it didn't know what they were doing. Whoever owns this property, I'm sorry to say this, but you haven't added value to the house. You've got yourself a loft conversion. Obviously you're living in it and it's doing, serving a purpose. But when you go to sell that house, what you're looking at there is a complete liability. Someone's going to have that work done. What I would have done is I would have made a gable end of that wall. I would have lifted that roof. When I did the loft conversion, had a vertical wall there, a triangle at the end, gable end, instead of that hipped roof going back. And that would have given them another 8 feet of usable space in that loft conversion at least. So it would have been a better loft conversion. It wouldn't have taken long. I reckon if you got a couple of guys in, a couple of carpenters, scaffolded that building out, and you could put a gable end up there, it would probably take them about 3 days to put a gable end up there, and then you'd need a roofer to come in and tile hang it after that. So all in all, a couple of weeks work, but after you've had done the 2 weeks, you would have a much better job. You would get rid of all that, you would bring those stills inside the building, and it would just solve the problem. But I bet every builder that lives around there looks at that as they go by and just shudders. It's such a shame to see that kind of work. But there you go. Thanks for sending that in. As I say, I'm not sure it's genuine. I'm not sure he's really going to go up there to fix that job, but it was very interesting to see, even though it made me weep slightly.